What's going on guys, it's Raborai and welcome back to my channel. I've had a little bit of a hiatus recently. One way to come back to making Pokemon videos though, talking about the things that I would change about the series. Pokemon has been around for a very long time. It's naturally got a lot of things wrong over time and a lot of things right. But there's some elements and things within the series that simply need to change as a whole to make the experience better. There's also one or two that are a bit selfish towards me, and it's important to put across this is my opinion. If you feel differently or have an opinion you would love to give, please comment down below. Something I really enjoy about the videos that I've put out is the conversations that I've had with people because of them. Now, let's look at some of the things that I think need to improve and change in Pokemon in order to have a better experience for me personally. Point number 1, the release date of the games. Let's be upfront about this. Showing the optimistic side, there is a lot of things in Pokemon that are really positive nowadays. Moving towards traditionally just open world is something that everyone has wanted for years and years. The ability to do every single gym just as you want is great, but in the build up with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, it's helped highlight a problem that's existed for quite a while now with Pokemon, and that is games being released when they shouldn't be. When you look at some recent releases such as Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, they've been released with such rushed content that they've led to big bugs and underwhelming experiences depending on the situation at hand. The reality is the demand for the series is incredibly high, so naturally it has to be pushed out at quite a fast pace. The problem is, this isn't like back in the mid-90s where a lot of Pokemon's first gen experiences feature a lot of bugs, and it's almost intertwined with the gameplay experience itself. Development for a game with the current engines and technology involved is so sophisticated now that naturally it takes a lot of time to get it right. And the time clearly isn't being given. Nowadays in gaming, something that I'm not a big fan of is this almost move towards the fixing post mentality for games. A game will be released, you'll fall through the floor, have bad camera angles, sometimes even game breaking experiences. But don't worry, in 3 months time those bugs will be fixed. And the rest of them, well, they'll be fixed in a year's time. As I've become an adult who's very big into gaming, and it is a side hobby because it's not something that I earn money from, I simply don't have the time that I used to have that allowed me to put so much into one game. And therefore when I experience a game, I want it to be the best one possible. This post fix for me does not work. I'd rather companies spend time perfecting a game and pushing the release date back a year or two because they feel it's required than release a game and then a couple of months later fix it in post. Pokemon has unfortunately fallen in that category more than any other nowadays. Diamond and Pearl were greatly enhanced by Platinum as a game. It's actually quite fair to argue as the third option it might be the best that's ever been released alongside Emerald. When Ruby and Sapphire were remade, they were greatly enhanced by things like the Delta episode, which while it wasn't Emerald, made the game incredible in its own right. Why did Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl not fix the issues of the previous one like other remakes? Simultaneously, why didn't they add enough into the game to make it such a great experience? Everyone loves 4th gen. With the time and effort, it could have been perfect. Well, the simple reason is a deadline had to be met, and therefore this brought about laziness and corner cutting in order to meet that deadline. Stressing the need to get something out in time leads to a product that naturally feels like it's missing something. The originals were fun, and that was the thought when this was released. At the end of the day, as a consumer, I'd rather they take an extra year or so for the project, make it the best they can be than rush it out. And for me personally, that is something that needs to be changed in Pokemon just to make sure the enjoyment and playability of the series goes beyond an initial play. Number 2, a difficulty option. The standard method of play is perfectly fine and understandable for the age range that it is aimed at, but Black and White 2 introduced something that should be the gold standard for Pokemon going forward. The difficulty option. For a lot of people, difficulty and challenging aspects of Pokemon are what keeps the games entertaining and keeps you on your toes. Nuzlocke, Wedlocks, Move One Step locks, Dunsparce is the greatest locks. You name it, they have provided something nice to fans of the franchise as a whole. But why don't we make this the standard in Pokemon games as well? Not just a fan-oriented experience. The final boss is all legendaries with perfect IVs and the best moveset possible that covers them, so on and so forth. Maybe you have it similar to how they do it in Black and White 2 where the key is unlocked later on. After you complete one standard playthrough, there is then a difficulty option added afterwards. But in my opinion, difficulty is something that's always been sorely lacked in Pokemon. Especially as I've gotten older. Again, it's important to mention I'm not the target audience for Pokemon. I've grown up with it, but I'm not the target audience anymore. But just from a selfish perspective, I think it's important to have some sort of difficulty because the fans need to create their own version of difficulty ratings in order to keep themselves challenged or facing something different. Make it game standard. Number 3, changing Pokemon types. Look, we've already done this with some Pokemon already. Think of the ones that have changed to Fairy type after Fairy was introduced. But I personally don't feel like we've gone far enough with this. I think we need to look at the Pokemon that really should be other types. You're telling me that Charizard's not a fire dragon? I'll put a couple of examples that I think on screen should be changed. And if you can think of any others, put them in the comments below. Now this is a bit more of a selfish one. At the end of the day, the meta is established. All the Pokemon fit into a particular criteria when playing the game. They aren't just going to change this just because we want. And I understand that. The game's already established, why are you changing something that already exists? Fairy type didn't exist beforehand, so therefore changing those Pokemon made sense. But changing this Pokemon to the correct type, unfortunately doesn't have any logical basis. Again, just a selfish one. And number 4, the age rating. I've saved this one to last as this is the reason why I plan to do the video in the first place. I'm going to be very straightforward about this. Pokemon is an enjoyable product competitively, socially and single player wise. But the possibilities are absolutely endless with the genre that it's in, and there's so many different topics that simply will never be touched. The age rating will stop certain genres and ideas from ever being touched as a concept, because it's completely out of the range. Now I completely get it. Pokemon is such a dominant force in the market as it currently stands. It's quite hard to think of a time when you didn't walk into a shop and saw something Pokemon related. The profitability of the franchise means there's no need for them to ever change or develop the product into a different direction. It's business at the end of the day. Why should they change just because some of us would like to experience something different? But from a selfish perspective, if like myself you've seen the possibilities Pokemon has through ideas such as fan games, you will see the potential the series has as a whole, especially now that I'm older. Pokemon is traditionally aimed at the target audience that it is and has not changed in years. I am actually 2 months older than the date the anime officially started airing. I'm nearly as old as the franchise itself. If it is profiting to the levels it is currently in the market, it quite rightfully is not going to diverge for any of us. But when you see fan games that touch on things like becoming your own gym leader, being the bad guy, nuclear warfare, you name it, you really see that Pokemon has a potential to be basically endless in possibilities. But it's simply never going to be touched upon. You can't have a game that's aimed at younger people and then portray a bad guy stealing Pokemon from others. They already have enough in terms of controversy or allegations that exist or have existed in the past. They don't need that on them, especially when it's so profitable. I have been working on a video that actually touches upon why fan games are so important for the series. Now my audio got deleted, so I'm going to have to redo it, but this point is one of the main reasons why. It's the only way that we can get this experience elsewhere. Pokemon will quite rightfully stay in its position. Thanks for watching guys, make sure to like and subscribe. As I've said throughout the video, I want to hear your opinions. What are you changing about Pokemon? Is it a small thing? Is it a big thing? I do actually have loads more to add. If people want, I can do another part of this. Make sure to check out all my other videos on Pokemon. See you next time guys.